Okay, welcome back to all of you guys. I'm going to share this topic that I was going to share this afternoon. We're going to share it this morning so that we can finish up early today. There's that sneeze. Boy, it was coming for a long time. It was like 45 minutes ago. All right. So this topic of learning meditation to eliminate sexual cravings and meditation to realize non-self. These are the other two meditations that the Buddha taught, where in the foundation course and the harmony and relationship course, I teach breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. In this particular course, we've just been doing it. I haven't really taught it, but I teach it in the foundation, in the harmony and relationship course, and I also teach it in the group learning program and things like that. But here in this particular course, I teach you guys these two types of meditations, and these are two specialized meditations that not everybody's going to need. In terms of getting to enlightenment, you are going to ultimately need to eliminate your sexual cravings, and you are going to ultimately need to realize non-self. But whether you use these meditations to accomplish that is a choice for you to make. In order to get rid of craving and anger in the mind, you would have to use breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation, along with all the other teachings that the Buddha shares. But you can actually eliminate sexual cravings in other ways that you don't absolutely have to use this meditation. And the same thing with the meditation to realize non-self. There's other practices that you can employ that you don't have to actually do that meditation to realize non-self. But these are two tools that you can use that the Buddha taught that will help you to be able to accomplish these goals. So this first one of meditation to eliminate sexual cravings, I'll teach you guys this. The reason why the mind craves to have sex is because of its sensual desire. There's that fetter, that taint, that pollution, where the mind wants things to be permanently pleasing. And having contact with the body, with the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, all of these things, the mind experiences that heightened sense of pleasure that ultimately typically results in an orgasm, right? If we're having sex. The reason why the mind is attracted to do that with another being is because we see the outer shell. We see the skin, the hair, the clothing, the jewelry, for some people makeup, things like this. We see this outer shell and now we're attracted to it. Whereas if we saw true reality of what this body truly is, we most likely wouldn't be interested in having sex with it. So for example, if the skin was ripped off and you were just looking at this being with their skin ripped off, you probably wouldn't be interested in having sex with it. But because we see this outer layer, we're attracted to this body. And that's the mind's central desire through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself being attracted to this other person and now wanting that person to please you and please this body, which ultimately pleases the mind. So in order to get to the point where you're eliminating your sexual cravings, you need to do what the Buddha described as develop the unattractiveness of the body, where you don't see the body as being attractive, where the mind can essentially get to the point where it sees true reality. And the way that you do this during the lifetime of the Buddha is you would do what's called 32-part body meditation, where you would basically go through each of the 32 parts of the body and you would meditate on each individual parts, like the hair, the skin, the oil, the saliva, the tears, the urine, the bladder, the spleen, the gallbladder, all these different things. You would actually meditate on all these different things. Also, during the lifetime of the Buddha, if there was like a corpse, they would actually have corpses around, and they would usually sit around for a few days before they would actually burn it. So they could see like the maggots going in and out of the corpse. They could smell the odor of the corpse, and they would actually sit down and meditate next to the body in order to get that odor and get that visual of this body deteriorating. So nowadays we can't necessarily do that because with the government and stuff like this, they're going to hinder us from being able to meditate next to a corpse, and it may not even be something you're interested in anyway. You can do things like they have cadaver labs. For those of you guys that are familiar with that, you can go to certain facilities where people have donated their bodies to science, and they have it in a sterile environment where you can actually go in and view a dead body with its skin ripped off, and all these other things, bits and pieces and parts. I did this as a massage therapist at one time, even though I wasn't a therapist, I was a practitioner. It was only like $15, and we could go in there and spend several hours with all these dead bodies, and they would walk you through and they would explain to you what you're seeing, and you could see the body in different stages of disease and illness, and things like this. And it was quite eye-opening. So that's an option for you, that you can do that, right? But then there's also things that you would like to be doing on a regular basis, like this meditation to eliminate sexual cravings. And while I do teach the 32-part body meditation in one of the retreats that I share, in this particular course, I teach you something else. That is something that we've come up with in modern times to essentially replicate what the Buddha did during his lifetime. So I'm going to flip the slide here. When I flip the slide, you're going to see a dead corpse that has been dissected. So I just give you guys a heads up in case this is something that you may or may not be interested to see right now, that's what I'm going to be flipping the slide for you to be able to see. And you can make a decision of whether or not you'd like to see it or not. Okay, so here's a dead corpse. Okay, so these are the words of the Buddha, where he talks about developing the perception of the unattractiveness of the body should be developed to abandon lust. So what we do nowadays is we sit and we get a picture like this, and you look at it through your eyes, and you just look at all the little bits and pieces and parts of this body, developing the unattractiveness of the body, because there's not too many people that would be interested in having sex with this, right? So if you can develop this unattractiveness of the body through viewing this, where you just sit and look at it for 15, 20, 30 minutes and look at all the little individual strands of hair, all the different little orifices, all the blood and the different fluids and all these kind of things. And this is just one picture. You could get other pictures. If you go shopping here in Thailand, if you go to some of the Buddhist stores where they sell Buddhist things, they will have laminated pictures of dead bodies, and you can actually buy them there, probably like 20 baht, 30 baht, 100 baht, something like this. And you can buy these and you can have them for you in your own home. And this is something that you can do to develop the unattractiveness of the body. You stare at this, and then more and more the mind doesn't associate this body as being something pleasurable that you'd like to have sex with it. So this is one of the ways to diminish your sexual cravings. And it's not like you do it one time, you're going to immediately eliminate your sexual cravings. So somebody could use this, like say they have like 10 boyfriends or 10 girlfriends, and they would like to get down to one, but they have a lot of sexual craving. They could do this for multiple weeks and months and start bringing their sexual cravings down to where they can now have sex with just one partner. And that would be better for them than having sex with so many different people over a course of time. So that's one way that someone might use this, but it's going to take multiple months to wear that away. Or say somebody's having sex with one partner, and them and their partner have decided, yeah, we're done with this. We're going to move on, moving further on the path to enlightenment and eliminate these sexual cravings. You could use it for that too. But once again, it's not going to be like you snap your fingers and it's instantly going to be working for you. So you're going to need to do it over multiple weeks and multiple months. And you might bring this in as one of your 3 meditations that you're doing in a day. You might do loving kindness in the morning. You might do this one in the afternoon, and then maybe a breathing mindfulness meditation in the evening. That might be something that you choose to do. Or you might decide to do this, just 2 or 3 times a week. You're going to need to make those decisions for yourself. So this is a meditation that you can use if you feel like you need this type of extra attention to eliminate your sexual cravings. And of course, this is all built on the Eightfold Path, because if you know the Eightfold Path, then with your mindfulness and awareness of mind, as you're, say, walking through the mall and you notice the craving for sex comes up because you see someone very handsome or very beautiful, you're going to need to use your mindfulness to see that craving come up, and you're going to need to apply right effort to cut it off and let it go, right? So all of that we're teaching you is built upon that. So you need that Eightfold Path well underway, and this is something that is done in connection to that to kind of proactively help you to eliminate sexual cravings. So do you guys have any questions on this particular meditation? Any questions? Simon? Yep.
So I get this, but certainly, if you were to, maybe it's a silly question, but if you were to have food, right, and put food out, and then in a couple of weeks it'd be pretty gross, there'd be maggots and everything. And obviously, if food is not a sexual object, but it's something that's going to decay as well and look pretty horrible. Yeah. So but we still need to eat food, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like you're going to see that one time and then you're going to be turned away from food, right? But food is something that you need to sustain your life. You don't have to have sex to sustain your life. And see, this is where like personal existence view comes into all of this, and conceit as well, since you guys have learned that in this particular course. Because sometimes people identify with, wow, I'm really knocking it out in the bedroom, right? And now that's part of their personal existence view, right? Maybe that's why, maybe they have some conceit or arrogance around that. So maybe they need to be working on some of that stuff too, as they're, before they're even getting to this, right? So that's why these fetters, it's typically not just one fetter involved in any particular bout of discontentedness. Sometimes we view our manhood or our womanhood through the type of sexual activity that we're having. And we feel like, we're less of a person, or we might think that our relationship is not viable because we're not choosing to have sex. Sometimes we put the emphasis of our relationship based on sex. In fact, people call it making love, right? You're not making love when you're having sex. You're stimulating the senses in order to be able to get to this heightened state of orgasm, essentially. That's not the love. But if you view your sexual activity as the love, when the sexual activity is gone, you might think that your love is gone. But you can see that if you've trained your mind enough, then you'll be able to see that that's not the love, and you can actually still love someone deeply without having sex with them. And this takes time for the mind to evolve to that point and be willing to be able to see that and then practice it on a daily basis. So there's multiple fetters here that can sometimes be a play that you need to work on even before you get to something like this.
Just out of interest, you mentioned like Buddhism stores, shops. Are there any particular ones you recommend here in Chiang Mai? Nice places to go to?
There's plenty of Buddhist shops. I don't shop at them because oftentimes they're selling things like statues and things for rituals and stuff. I used to go to these places, and there's different places that will kind of have them. Like Chinatown has a bunch. In front of Chinatown, there's a bunch of them. There's places in Bangkok that I used to go to certain temples, and they will kind of tend to collect around those areas. And I remember walking past them and seeing these pictures plenty of times. So I haven't seen any of them in here in Chiang Mai if they have these pictures, but I imagine they probably do somewhere. But you can get them on the internet too. You can download them. But in the Buddhist shops, what you're going to find is statues and certain devices for monks, and the things for the rituals and ceremonies is what you're going to mostly find. I go to the places that sell the furniture and the carpets for the temples because there's stores that sell that stuff.
So this is a weird question, but let's say there's someone that you're like maybe feel a lot of lust for, and someone that's like but
it's like we lost it. Maybe there's another one. Simon always gets a good mic. I don't know how he does that. I think I've only ever known him to have a scratchy mic one time.
Okay. Would it be beneficial, let's say you no longer want to feel like this towards this person and it's like overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Would it be weird to imagine them like this? Because you're kind of imagining them dead, Yeah. So I don't know if that would be beneficial or to go another route.
It'd be very beneficial for you. Yeah, if you're trying to like completely cut off your lust and not be attracted, like maybe you're in a current relationship, but you've encountered this person. Maybe they're your neighbor, you see them daily, and you're not interested in that because your relationship is going quite well and you'd rather stay with that. So that would be a way for you to train your mind to disassociate with that and to not have lustful thoughts towards that being. Mm-hmm. Joe?
Okay, David, this is great for visual, but what about the other senses?
What do you mean? What about the other
Like
senses?
smell, touch.
Yeah, we were talking about this right before you came in, I think, that during the lifetime of the Buddha, that people used to meditate with a corpse, and then you could smell the corpse. And nowadays, government regulations don't allow for that. So one of the things that I suggested for people is like go to visit a cadaver lab, which you're a massage therapist. I don't know. Have you ever done that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might decide to do that with the intention of eliminating sexual craving. And now you're going in there for a different purpose, where as a massage therapist, you're going in there to see the anatomy and understand how to improve your massage and things like this. But you can also visit those kinds of places for this intention, to train your mind to develop the unattractiveness of the body.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question. So, during the meditation, what do you exactly do with, let's say, with this picture? Do you visualize it in your mind and you go over each detail, or there are certain steps that you take?
Yeah, you just stare at it and you look at every last little detail of the body, and you just kind of breathe in and breathe out, and you just look at every little detail, every little orifice, every little drop of fluid, the fingernails, if there's dirt under the fingernails, you just look at every little kind of thing, almost kind of tracing it with your eyes.
Okay, so you keep your eyes open.
Yeah, you keep your eyes open.
An image.
Yes.
Or an actual body.
So what you're doing is you're imprinting into your mind that this physical body is not beautiful. It's not attractive. So like the things that the Buddha has you meditate on are things like sweat, pus, mucus, things like this. And he has you visualize this within your own mind, because they didn't have photography during his lifetime. But nowadays we can use photography to help us to be able to visualize this and look at it as being unattractive. And that's not to say that you won't ever understand the beauty of the human body, right? Like when there's a handsome or beautiful being that walks in front of you, even when you're not having sex anymore, you'll know like, wow, she's really beautiful, or wow, he's really handsome. But it's just like you don't have any longing, yearning for it, because you know that that temporary pleasure of sex is ultimately going to lead to painful feelings, because you'll feel great while you're having sex for a few hours or a few days or whatever it is that those feelings are around. But then when you want sex and you can't get it, you'll feel agitated and frustrated and annoyed. And that's why as long as you have a craving for sex, you can't get to permanent peace and permanent joy. But depending on where you are in your life, what your age is, you might decide to continue to have a sexual relationship for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what have you. And you might do all the other work on the path to enlightenment and eliminating conceit and working on your ill will, eliminating all these other things, personal existence view, you're working on your moral conduct. You can actually get to the second stage of enlightenment and still be having a sexual relationship. And your life's going to be quite peaceful, particularly if your partner is also practicing these teachings. You guys will be quite peaceful with each other, but you're still going to be agitated sometimes when you want sex and you can't get it. And now what you do is you hang out there forever long, and you and your partner eventually are going to get to a point where it's like, yeah, been there, done that. How many times can we do that? Different ways. And now you're going to start seeing, you're going to have like a month or 2 or 3 of peacefulness in your mind, and you're going to see what that peace and joy is like. And then you guys are going to end up having sex, and that peace is going to be gone. And that joy is going to be gone. You'll have a 2 or 3 day kind of glow, after sex glow, but then your mind's going to go down into sadness and frustration and agitation. And you're like, man, that 3 months of that peace and joy was so much better than that temporary pleasure that I got through sex. And now more and more, you're going to become disinterested in sex. Sometimes we can't imagine this when we're in a sexual life and we're having sex. We can't imagine there's something better than sex. But there is. It's called enlightenment. And the more that you kind of get these glimpses of what enlightenment is, you'll start appreciating that level of peace and joy much more than this temporary pleasure of sex. So getting to this unattractiveness of the body, it's that you start imprinting that in your mind, but you'll still see like, wow, she's really beautiful, or wow, he's really handsome, but you won't be drawn towards it, because you'll know that, hey, if I allow this body and mind to go in that direction, it's ultimately going to end up in painful feelings. Sure, there's going to be a little bit of pleasure along the way, but it's ultimately going to end up in pain. And I like this peacefulness that I'm experiencing now much more than that over there. And you need to have enough of those experiences to be able to see that truth for yourself, because I can explain it to you and I can tell it to you, but you've got to experience it for yourself. You know, there was a period of time where me and my wife, we went a whole year without having sex, and we were both like quite peaceful and quite joyful. And then we ended up having sex after that year. And I noticed that she was more grumpy. She was irritable. You know, that kind of came up. And I was just like, man, I'm not interested. And I noticed myself too, internally, not externally, but internally in my mind. I was like, I'm not interested in doing this ever again. Like, why would I destroy that peace that we were having for such a long time for this, you know, temporary pleasure? And now there's these weeks of agitation and frustration because of it. So you just got to see it for yourself. Like, again, I can explain it, but you need to be able to see it. So if you're young right now, you're interested in having a family, or you're in a relationship where there's sex, or even if you're not young, maybe you're older and you're still having sex, hey, do whatever you would like to do, because part of extinguishing a craving is to fulfill it. One of the ways to extinguish a craving for sex, have lots of sex. If you'd like, right? That's one of the ways to do it. It will heighten your sensual desire. If you're in the process of extinguishing it, then work on extinguishing it. But if you've ever had a partner where maybe you guys were hanging out for several days and you're having sex like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in one day, probably by the end of the day, you're like, man, this is exhausting. I'm not interested in doing this anymore. Like, how many showers can you take? How many times can you do this, right? You probably get kind of disgusted with it. It's like, I'm not interested in doing that anymore, right? That's essentially how you extinguish a craving, by just doing a whole lot of it. That's one of the ways to do it if you're working towards that. But you need to be really careful when you're doing that, because it can actually heighten your sexual cravings as well. But wherever you are in your life, that's where you are in your life. You know, you decide for yourself when or if you would ever like to eliminate sexual cravings. But if you're ready to do that at some point, this is an option for you. But depending on where you are in your life, in your journey, you might not be ready to do this right now. Or you might just be looking to reduce your sexual cravings. So that's where you could do this for several weeks or several months just to reduce them. And now they're a little bit more manageable. And maybe you're still choosing to have sex in your relationships, but it's not to the point where you're bouncing off the walls if you don't have sex every 2 or 3 days. Right? I know I said more than what you asked, but I was interested in expanding on more.
Yeah. You responded some follow-up questions that I already had.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you read my mind.
Okay, good. Any more questions? Eamon has a question. Simon, yeah, you have a question? Yeah, up to you guys. I don't know who's first, who's second.
Just to go back to your example of like someone who's having lots of sexual activity, and in order to diminish it, like, we could apply that to other things, couldn't we? Such as if anything else that might be detrimental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
not necessarily sex, but other things too. So if you can have too much of something, and then you get to the point, wow, this is great, but I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, so like my son one time during COVID, we ordered popcorn from the movie theater, and we had it delivered, big tub of popcorn, and he ate it, and he just kept asking for popcorn over and over and over again. It was too expensive. I couldn't keep buying it. So I went out and bought him kilos of popcorn that he could pop on the stove, and I taught him how to pop his own popcorn. So for about 2 years, he was eating popcorn like every other day, almost every day. He was making popcorn and eating it. Now he hardly ever eats popcorn anymore because he extinguished his craving by fulfilling it, right? He just ate a whole bunch of popcorn for 2 years. So this is the way you would like to look at these things, is the cravings that you're looking to fulfill. It's things that are not causing harm, like him making a bunch of popcorn wasn't causing any harm. But now if you were like, hey, David, I have a craving to snort cocaine, I wouldn't say, hey, go snort some cocaine, Simon. Like, that'll be really helpful for you. Like, it'll extinguish your craving, because that's going to actually cause harm to this physical body and this mind. So you need to look at the type of craving and decide, because sex is one of those ones that it's like, it can actually lead to a lot of craving, and it can kind of take you in that direction, and it can be very harmful for you. But if you're doing it because you know you're working you're and exhausting it, where you're putting more and more distance between your sexual activity, this can actually be helpful for you. So you need to look at the individual craving. If someone has a craving for plants and they just want to keep buying a bunch of plants, if somebody just gave them a big gift of a lot of plants, this can help them extinguish that craving. It's like, wow, I got all these plants, and now I've kind of extinguished my craving because I've got them all. And it's kind of like, this is the way that people typically extinguish a craving for a partner. If they have a craving for a life partner, well, when you get one and you have a decent relationship with this person, you'll extinguish your craving to have one because you've got it, right? Or if you have a craving for children and you really want to have children, if you have a child or more, it'll extinguish your craving for it because you've got one. It's like, done. I don't need that anymore because I got it. So now that's one of the ways you can extinguish cravings. So you would like to do this selectively for the ones that aren't going to cause any harm. And sex is like a borderline one. Eamon, you have a question?
Thank you. Yeah. Can we think that there's a difference then between something that's logically can be thought and something that's far greater, like impulse? It feels to me like we're thinking about impulse. And it just feels like it comes from a different place. I can make poor decisions and say very poor things, but there's some kind of process that goes through. But for me, when it comes to impulse, and I think that, we're all sexual beings, I think, and to some extent, we're meant to reproduce. It just feels different. I was just reminded of, I think it was back in the 50s or something, wasn't it? That, I don't know, the brains at the time thought that homosexuality was a disease, and therefore if it was a disease then it might be able to be cured. So they devised a method of having some kind of visual, I can't remember, it was some visual thing. You would, if I was a gay man, I would look at a screen while somehow experiencing some kind of nausea, and then somehow in the mix I go, oh, well, that represents everything bad. But of course, history shows it's absolute nonsense. You know what I mean? So do you think impulse is, I don't know, it just feels like a decision to be made. Do you know what I mean? It's, the one makes a decision on impulse. I don't know.
Impulse is just another word for craving, desire, attachment. When somebody's choosing to have sex with the opposite gender or same gender, that's not an impulse. That's something that's innate in that person. That's what they, the choice that they're making to have sex with that particular person. It's like you're either choosing to have sex with same gender or opposite gender, or some people have sex with both genders. It's not something that you're going to change about your who you are or not who you are. You're not going to change your decision on that matter. If you're having sex, you're choosing to have sex in whatever way that you're deciding to do that. And that's something that you're essentially born in, and that's what you are interested to do. This whole idea of having sex, though, that's coming from what you're describing as impulse or craving, desire, sensual desire. That's what that is. There's a longing, yearning for it, and it's in the mind. It is something that's trainable, to train the mind not to do that. But most people don't even know that that's important to do. Oftentimes people think that you're a healthier being and you are healthy for having sex, and it's a healthy relationship to have sex. And oftentimes we're associating a lot of positive things with sex, but it ultimately is going to lead to discontentedness, because while you're having sex, you'll have conditioned pleasant feelings, and when you're not having sex, you'll have painful ones. So if you were ever interested to get to permanent peace and permanent joy, you're going to need to eliminate that central desire. And one of the strongest central desires that we tend to have is for sexual activity. But we can train our mind to not long and yearn for that. But while someone is having sex, that interest to have sex with whatever type of being, that is also part of one's own mind. But whether it's a male or female or opposite gender, same gender, that's something that we tend to, in my opinion, be born with. That's not trainable to stop. If someone can't train themselves, if they're choosing to have sex with the opposite gender, they can't train themselves to now want the same gender. It's something that we tend to be born with in one way or another. It's almost like our mind is wired that way. And there's no problem either way, whether we choose to have sex with opposite or same gender, it's not causing any harm. It's just impermanence. And I've taught that before, and you've heard me share those kinds of things. Okay. More? Yep.
I have another question. So is sexual drive, is there any physicality of it, underlying sexual drive? In the sense like, this might sound a little funny, but I was born in a male body, and at least, within, like masculinity, we say things like, at some point I need to ejaculate, okay? So if someone decides to reduce, sexual activity or eliminate sexual craving, will there be any physical need, for these physical functions of the body, mm-hmm. or is everything trainable in the mind?
It's all trainable in the mind. If you're used to ejaculating on whatever regularity, when you're not ejaculating, there can be some physical pain with that because your body is used to doing that. But you can overcome that, and you can get to the point where there's no physical pain. So physically, you don't need to ejaculate. You're not more of a man or less of a man if you're not doing that. The body isn't required to do that in order to be healthy and sustained in the world. I'm sure there's plenty of studies out there where scientists have determined that if you ejaculate on this type of schedule or that type of schedule, you're going to be more healthy or less healthy. It's not true. You can lead a very healthy life, because from the age of 35 on, the Buddha never ejaculated, right? Because he would have gotten to enlightenment. So for 45 years, he didn't ejaculate. And during that lifetime, 2,500 years ago, I suspect that the natural life span was not typically 80 years old. I know that he had students of his that were younger than him that were regularly dying before him. I think he lived for a very elongated amount of time, because life expectancy back then was probably 30s, maybe 40s at most. So he lived until 80. So you can see that physically you don't need ejaculation in order to physically be healthy. But you will potentially experience some pain as you're choosing not to do that any longer. And that's why it's gradual that you do that. And the way that I've taught this before is I've explained to you guys about masturbation when we talk about the 5 precepts. Some of you guys have been in those talks with me where I talk about how oftentimes people are taught that masturbation is all wrong and you should never do it and all these kinds of things. This isn't actually true. You can actually use masturbation to help you as you're extinguishing your sexual cravings, that you can put further and further distance between you and sexual activity. But if you know anything about like dams, they have these multi-million-dollar structures that hold back water. And when the water is coming up, it can damage the dam because it's building up a lot of pressure. So what they do to protect the dam is they open up the dam and they let the water out to reduce the pressure, and then they will close the dam again. And now that protects the dam. This is the same thing that can happen as you're choosing to let go of sexual activity. You can notice, like, say you're used to having sex every week, and now let's just say you've gone 3 or 4 weeks or however long without sex, and you're noticing a lot of pressure coming up in your mind, and you're just having this urge, this overwhelming urge to have sex. You could actually do a little bit of masturbation. It's like releasing the pressure. It's like opening up the dam, and you're protecting your mind. So rather than go out there and have sex, if that's what you're trying to avoid, use some masturbation instead. And now if you've, say, gone 2 weeks without having sex and now you masturbate. Okay, well, now try to make it 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then, okay, maybe you need to masturbate again. Okay, now maybe make it 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and try to keep expanding it longer and longer. And understand you're going to have backward steps sometimes. Maybe you're intending to masturbate once, but maybe you do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times over the next few days, but then you get right back into your swing of it, where you've gone now 8 weeks without any kind of sexual contact. So you're going to have these kind of backward steps like this, but you can use some masturbation to help you in that situation, to release the pressure and release any kind of pain that you're experiencing. And this is for men and for women as well. There's no harm in masturbation, but if you did it excessively, like say you're masturbating 15, 20, 25 times a day, there's going to be some problems there, because it's increasing your sensual desire, where what you're interested in doing is decreasing your sensual desire. So you can use these things skillfully to be able to help you. And there's no unwholesome results if you're working to decrease your sensual desire, right? Or let's just say somebody was interested in raping an individual, but they chose to use masturbation instead. That's a beneficial result, right? That's helpful. So thinking that masturbation is all unwholesome and you should never do it, this isn't wise to think that way, because it can actually be used beneficially if you're doing it skillfully with the mind of reducing the sensual desire. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to this next meditation. This next meditation is to help you realize non-self. Remember that what the underlying problem is here that the Buddha discovered is personal existence view, that the mind is clinging to this self-image, and this mind, this identity in the mind, is thinking that this is who you are as a person, and it's clinging and holding on, and you're trying to train the mind to let it go. And there's all those things that I've taught you already from our other talk about what is personal existence view, what is realizing non-self, what are those proactive things that you can be doing, like wearing simple clothes, getting rid of jewelry, shaving your hair. We talked about all these kinds of things. And whether you're at that point where you're ready to start working on that or not is unique to you. You might be at the point where it's like, I'm just working on the Eightfold Path and learning the Eightfold Path and developing my meditation practice. And if that's where you're at, just be there. But you're in a course where I'm teaching a whole lot of other stuff. So don't feel like you need to run out and start doing these things right now. This journey is your own individual journey to enlightenment. And when you're going to be in courses like this, you're going to sometimes learn things, and you're going to need to know, like, my practice isn't there yet. I'm not ready for that. You're over here working on these things. But just understand that there's all these tools that you can use at different times. So while I'll teach you this, you may not be in a place right now to actually start using this. Where you would start using this is typically when you're in the jhanas. When you're starting to notice that you've gotten into the jhanas, that's where it makes sense to start really working on personal existence view the most. And that's where coming in with this meditation will help you. But if you haven't developed your breathing mindfulness meditation practice, if you haven't developed your loving kindness meditation practice, if you haven't developed your mindfulness to be aware of the bodily sensations, that early warning system that you have that's alerting you to discontentedness arising and cutting off and letting go there, it doesn't make sense to go down and actually start to do this particular meditation. You're not going to harm yourself by doing it, but it's just not going to have the effect that you need, because you kind of need to soften up the mind with all those other factors of the Eightfold Path first before your mind's even willing to let go of this personal existence view. So while I'll teach this to you, you need to decide for yourself whether it's the right time. And if you're ever curious, you can always ask me, but you should know for yourself of whether you're in those jhanas or not. That's the best indication to know that it's time to do this. So I'm going to teach it to you, and then I'm going to give you a choice of whether you would like to do the meditation to eliminate sexual cravings or this meditation. But just understand these may not even have any effect for you today, depending on where you are in your practice. But I'll at least teach it to you. So here's the 4 types of meditation that the Buddha taught. He taught this developing the perception of unattractiveness of the body to abandon lust. That's the one we were just talking about. He taught loving kindness to abandon ill will or anger or hatred and all those lesser versions. He taught breathing mindfulness meditation to cut off thoughts and train the mind to be restrained, to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. And he taught this meditation to realize non-self, to eliminate this I am. right? So he says the perception of impermanence should be developed to eradicate the conceit, I am, right? Like, I am a Buddhist teacher. I am an American. I am kind. I am this. I am that, right? So that's what he's teaching you. When one perceives impermanence, meaning that everything around you is impermanent, the perception of non-self is stabilized, because you understand, like, why would I cling to this body? Why would I cling to this mind as who I am when all of this stuff is impermanent? As soon as I cling to it and think this is who I am, all that stuff's going to change, and now I'm discontent because of it. That's so unwise. So when you develop the perception of impermanence, then you can stabilize this understanding that you need to realize non-self. One who perceives non-self eradicates the conceit I am, which is nibbana, or enlightenment, in this very life. Because getting rid of that ego is oftentimes one of the last things that the mind's doing as it's nearing closer and closer to enlightenment. Because that personal existence view and conceit, that's what we're referring to as the ego, where the word ego didn't exist during the lifetime of the Buddha, but he separated it like this intentionally, because the symptoms of personal existence view and the symptoms of conceit are very different, and the tools and methods to eliminate them are also different as well. So this meditation is one of the things that you can do in order to help you realize non-self and strip away this clinging to any of this as who you are. So these are the 4 meditations that the Buddha taught. And as I share with you guys, meditation is to eliminate unwholesome qualities and to cultivate wholesome qualities. And this is a slide that I created to show you guys exactly what are the unwholesome qualities that you're eliminating and what are the wholesome qualities you're cultivating with each individual meditation. This meditation is the priority. The Buddha prioritized this meditation, breathing mindfulness, over all other meditations, because the underlying problem that you're working to eliminate is craving, desire, attachment. That's what's leading to all your discontentedness. So he used this as a primary form of training. So that's why you would like to work on that and build that up first. When you have craving, desire, attachment, it leads to anger, hatred, and ill will. So even when you're eliminating your craving, desire, attachment, you need to still eliminate this mental object or this deeply rooted container of ill will in the mind. And that's where loving kindness meditation comes in. So he talks about this as essentially the second one. When he talks about the highest form of kamma that you can generate, the highest form of wholesome kamma that you can generate, he says, practicing breathing mindfulness meditation is the highest quality of kamma that you can generate because you're eliminating the craving, desire, attachment that is causing and motivating all your unskillful conduct and is producing the harm because you're craving and longing and yearning, making decisions through that craving. It's producing unwholesome results for you. So by choosing to meditate and knock down your cravings, it's producing the highest quality of kamma. And then the second highest quality, he talks about loving kindness meditation, because by eliminating your anger, hatred, and ill will and all those lesser versions, it's knocking down the harm that you're causing through that. Then after that, after you've got these well on board, if you need this meditation to eliminate sexual cravings, you might start working on that next. And then there's this meditation that I'm going to teach you now. Okay. So the way that this meditation is done is very similar to the meditation on loving kindness, that you start with the chanting. You go in with the breathing mindfulness meditation for a few moments, maybe like 3 minutes or 4 or 5 minutes or so, kind of preparing your mind. Then you go through these affirmations in the mind, repeating them on your out breath. Then you go back to breathing mindfulness and then back to the chanting. These affirmations are things like, I am not the body. And you can repeat that several times. I am not the body. I am not the body. And you do that on the out breath. Right? And then you say, I am not the mind. I am not the mind. I am not the mind. You repeat that several times. There is no self. There is no self. There is no self. You repeat that on the out breath, slowly but surely, each one, just like we do with loving kindness meditation. Then I do not exist. It's not to say that this being isn't in existence, because you are. There is a being here. But it's to say that there is no I here. That this I that the mind is holding on to, it doesn't exist. This I doesn't exist. This I that the mind is holding on to doesn't exist. You do that several times. Then, I am not the body, I am not the mind, there is no self, I do not exist. And you do that all as one statement, and then on the out breath, and then you repeat it on your next out breath. And then ultimately you get to the breathing mindfulness meditation and the chanting. So you could do one statement repeatedly over and over and over again. The next one, the next one, the next one, over and over and over again, the last one over and over again, and then finish. You could do it that way, right? Or you could do this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Then you could start over this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Start over this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and then finish. You might do it 3 to 5 times, right? And then finish. That's an option that you could do as well. Okay, so this is the meditation to realize non-self. It's not like this magical thing that as soon as you do it the first time, magically the personal existence view is eliminated, but it gradually wears this away over time. This isn't a meditation that you're going to need long-term because once you actually realize non-self, you won't need it anymore. So you might need it for multiple months as you're working on that, along with all the other things like maybe shaving your hair, making it so that your mind's not choosing what clothing that you're wearing, things like this. You might use it during that period of time as you're kind of trying to knock down personal existence view for a while. But then eventually you're going to be able to confirm that you've eliminated personal existence view. Because like that story I told you guys, your neighbor is going to come out and say to you, wow, you're so fat. You're going to be like, yep, sure am. And you're just going to smile and just keep on walking, right? And it's not going to affect your mind whatsoever. Whereas if you get angry in that situation or frustrated, then you know that there's still personal existence view in the mind, right? So you're going to still continue to do this. So you would like to have a good 6 months or a year of noticing that there aren't any symptoms of these fetters, a good part of a year that there aren't any symptoms of this fetters, because I've seen some of these fetters go dormant for 6 months and then they kind of rear their head back up. So you aren't interested in convincing yourself that any of these fetters are eliminated until you've seen a good long year that the mind is not experiencing any symptoms of them. And then you can be assured that the mind has eliminated it. The Buddha describes it as destroying the fetter. He also talks about it as cutting it off as a palm stump. If you've ever seen the way they cut palm trees, they cut them very low to the ground and there's very little actual stump. It's basically eradicated, right? So that's what you would like to do, is go a whole year of not seeing any symptoms of each individual fetter. And we talk about that when we get to the retreat in August that I teach. So this is the meditation to realize non-self. Now, sometimes when people see this, they like to say, instead of, I am not the body, they like to say like David is not the body, or David is not the mind. Same thing with loving kindness meditation when they're working on realizing non-self. Instead of saying, may I be peaceful, they will say, may David be peaceful. May David be safe. They're starting to kind of strip away and disassociate with this I. So if that's something you're interested in, you can do it that way too. Okay. Any questions on this meditation? All right. Yeah, you have a question?
So, can you combine this meditation with mindfulness at the same time, the same session?
Yeah, that's what I was sharing, that on the way in, just like loving kindness, you would like to do like 3 to 5 minutes worth of breathing mindfulness on the way in, do this one, and then on the way out, do some breathing mindfulness. And now, if you're going to do chanting, do your chanting. Okay. All right. So what I usually do at this point is invite you guys to do one of these meditations. Is that if you'd like to do this one, I will lead you guys in this one. I'm going to take a vote to see if you guys would like to do this one. If you'd like to do the meditation Eliminate Sexual Cravings, I'll lead you guys in this one. So let's take a vote. Who would like to do the meditation to eliminate sexual cravings? Yeah, I've never had a class, say that they would like to do that one. All right. So you guys can do that one on your own if you would like to do that one. Okay. So does that mean everybody would like to do this one? Yeah. Everyone would like to do this one? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll guide you guys in this one. All right. So when or if you ever get to the point where you're ready to eliminate sexual cravings, you can do that. You can ask for help. Oftentimes I'm teaching that one personally on a private basis. People ask me for help. Maybe they're addicted to pornography, having craving to pornography or masturbation, and they would like to use that one. So you can always reach out to me privately and I'll help you with that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the chanting. You're on your own for the breathing mindfulness meditation because you guys know how to do that now. Focus on the breath, and whenever the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and bring it back. But then at some point after the chanting and after the breathing mindfulness, I'm going to come in with these affirmations. And then you can just repeat this within your own mind on the out breath. Then we'll go back to breathing mindfulness, and then we'll come out with the chanting. Okay? All right. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. I am not the body. 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 I am not the mind. 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 There is no self. 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 I do not exist. 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 I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the mind, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะวาโอตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, we've got some questions here on Zoom. Omar is asking, if you're married or have a partner, does that mean you're not likely to get to enlightenment, since it's common for couples partners to have sex? This actually isn't true, because you can choose to have a partner and not have sex. So it's not about whether you have a partner or not. It's about whether you have a craving, desire, attachment, a longing, yearning for those pleasant feelings, and continuing to chase and chase and chase and think something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So it's not whether you have a partner or not that determines whether or not you're going to get to enlightenment. It's whether you're extinguishing your cravings, desires, attachments in your mind. So partners can choose to not have sex. If you look at your relationships that you've had in the past, typically relationships go really, really well at the beginning of the relationship. It's actually when you start having sex that's where a lot of the challenges come in, because that's where the mind starts getting really attached. If it wasn't attached before, it's typically getting attached in the action of having sex and having sex regularly. That's where attachment comes in. So now that's where all the discontentedness comes in. So you can choose to have a relationship without sex. And that would be, if you're already in an existing relationship where you're having sex, you guys training your mind to get to enlightenment, you can see more and more peace coming. And then you guys both might decide that you're going to move beyond that sexual activity. AG is asking, what about training ourselves to have sex but without attachment? Similarly, as you still eat your preferred fruit, but not with attachment. You are not avoiding completely this fruit, as I understood. So the purpose of eating food is to nourish the body, and that's what you're actually doing with food, is you're nourishing the body. Now, some people do have a craving, desire, attachment for a particular type of food, and they get pleasant feelings as a result of their craving, desire, attachment, but you can actually get rid of your craving, desire, attachment for food and still choose to eat it to nourish the body, because that's the ultimate goal. With sexual activity, the ultimate goal is to have pleasant feelings. There isn't the ability to have sex without attachment. It's just not possible. If there was a way to still have sex and get to enlightenment, I would have figured that out, and I would have been very pleased to report that to all of you guys, that that's possible, but it's not possible. Unfortunately, it's not possible, but there is something better than sex, as I've shared. It's enlightenment. You just got to be able to see it for yourself. You can't just believe what I'm sharing with you, but if you're having sex, there's an attachment. The mind's longing, yearning for those pleasant feelings associated with it, and that's why the mind's typically choosing to have sex. So it's not possible to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment while still actually having sex. If there was, I would have been pleased to report that to you. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. All right, I don't see anything else. Do you guys have anything about this meditation or the meditation to eliminate sexual cravings? No? Okay. So let me share with you guys what I'm going to teach you tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to start off our morning with this meditation that we just did, to be able to give you guys another experience of using it and, kind of making it part of your tool belt. Whether you choose to do this long term from this point or not, you need to decide that for yourself. As I mentioned to you, everybody's at a different place in their practice. So you may not decide to do this regularly, but at least you'll have it in your tool belt so that when you're ready to get to it, you'll be able to get to it. And one of the things you might notice when you're doing this meditation is you might notice fear coming up in the mind. As you're stripping away this idea of a self and who you think you are as a person, it can feel like you're walking off of a cliff. And if you're experiencing this means you're triggering that personal existence view. That fear is coming up. You feel like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be lost without these things. And you feel like you're walking off a cliff. This means the meditation's working. So don't shy away from that. There were times where I needed to do this meditation and I needed to back away from it for a week or so and allow my mind to kind of regain its composure. And then I would do it again and kind of start hitting the mind with it again. So don't be surprised if you experience that. Other students share with me that they have similar experiences. So after that meditation, I'm going to teach you the 5 hindrances. These are the 5 obstructions to actually getting to enlightenment. So I'm going to teach you guys what those are, and I'm going to teach you how to eliminate them too. Because as long as these 5 hindrances are in the mind, you won't be able to actually get to enlightenment. So while the Buddha teaches you all these teachings about how to get to enlightenment, he also teaches you these 5 hindrances that are going to obstruct you or block you from getting to enlightenment. So I'm going to teach you guys those and the solutions to them as well. Then I'm going to teach you how to determine if you've attained enlightenment. As we said at the beginning, nobody has attained enlightenment in these 5 days, right? But at least you'll know how to determine when you do get to that point that you've actually attained enlightenment. So I'll teach you guys that. I'm going to teach you how to integrate the teachings into your day-to-day life so you can have continuous ongoing training of your mind. And then I'm going to teach you how to get continuous support from me and all the resources that I share with you. I'm going to teach you how to do that as well. So that's our plan for tomorrow. And we might even finish up early tomorrow as well. Maybe we can do a group lunch or something like that if you guys would like to do something like that. Or we can even do that today too if you guys would like. It's up to you. But anyway, I would like to just thank you guys for coming. Thank you for being interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha. Thank you for everyone online who's joining as well. So I'm going to start off tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Okay? Sawadee ka.